What's going on, people? Welcome back to another Get It Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, as always, joined by my guy, Kev. Kev, what's going on, bro?
I'm doing well, man. It's the end of 2024. Hope all y'all had a good Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, or whatever y'all celebrate, man. Hope y'all enjoying y'all time with y'all families. You already know how it goes, man. We about to get into the thick of things with the college basketball season. We got a lot of conference games this week and for the next couple months, so I'm gonna definitely enjoy that. We've already had some pretty good games in the non-conference, but I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm all right, bro. The Giants won this weekend. Yesterday, I'm tight because now we ain't gonna get Cam Ward or Shador because we wanted to finally score points when it don't matter, And then my guy Cam Ward is getting drugged through the mud right now. So not a good weekend for my teams, But shout out to the Pop-Tart Bowl, bro. The Pop-Tart Bowl, hey, people tripping about bowl games mattering, man. The marketing team, they get an A+ for that. Because they made that bowl game matter. Like that's the only bowl anyone was talking about. The Pop-Tart Bowl. All you heard about is the Pop-Tart. I don't know any other bowl. Couldn't tell me any other than like the main bowls. Pop-Tart Bowl was a thing and all that. But Miami, we're gonna talk about. Speaking of Miami, they had their own. It's crazy. Miami's had an interesting week. They had their own controversy with Cam Ward opting out. Let me get your thoughts on that quick because we're gonna talk about Miami on the basketball side. But what do you feel about Cam Ward not playing the second half? Because that's been the big topic.
I mean, me personally, I would have just finished the game. Like, if you played the game, if you played a half of the game, you might as well just finish it, in my opinion. Like, I understand you want to protect your draft stock and all this stuff, but you suited up, bro. You put the pads on, you put the helmet on for the last time. Just finish the game, bro. It was one half. That's 30 minutes left of football that you skipped out on for literally no reason. I'm not mad at him like everybody else because I do get it a little bit. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, if you were to just opt out and you would have said that and made it clear before you played the game, before they played the game, then it's not even really a discussion. But the fact that you actually went out there.
No, zero discussion. No one talking about it.
Yeah, the fact that you went out there and then you hop back in the game and then you stopped. Like, that's just like, have we even ever seen that before? Like, is that a thing? Like, I don't think anybody's really done that like that.
Nobody's opted out mid-game.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know, man. Me personally, I would have just finished it, bro. You played the first half. Just rock out with your bros one more time. And I mean, like you said, they put up a lot of points. So I mean, I think he could have obviously helped do that again even more because that's what he's been doing all season long. So I don't really get it, but I mean, hey, it won't matter. He'll be in the NFL next year anyway, and we'll look forward to seeing him wherever he's at.
Yeah, I think in the bigger scheme, like, it's not really gonna make a difference because he's gonna be a top 5 pick. He's gonna be one of the top quarterbacks taken. But in the now, it's like it's a little bit of a I mean, the season's over, so I don't know how much of a distraction it is, but it's like you should. I don't know if this is a Mario thing. I don't know if Mario's like, yo, I want to protect you from you, because there's a part of me that feels like he wanted, like, I don't think he would have. I think he would have played the whole game. So I don't know if it's Mario just saying, nah, we gotta protect you. I need to protect you from you. But my thing is if I'm the coach, and there's going to be a lot of heat that comes in, I'm taking the bullets. Let me take the bullets. Let me say, yo, this is my coach's call. I said this. So it has me conflicted on what, like, maybe, because I don't know if straight up if Cam is like, no, I'm not playing. But I was just talking about this with Cruz on Overreaction Monday. It was like, did Mario, if this wasn't a scenario where Cam Ward saved your job, essentially, right? Because listen, if Cam Ward is not on the Miami Hurricanes this year, this team it's like Florida State bad. I think could, because that defense was basura. It was bad. Like, they gave up like 29 points in like the first half. So like Cam Ward put them in position to win the game. Like, he put up points. But I wonder if it wasn't like, oh man, this dude saved my job. So if he don't want to play in the second half, I'm not, as a coach, I'm not happy with it. But I gotta, like, hey man, this guy, he was a Heisman. Like, he helped me, win 10 games, like, kept me, the hot seat away from me. So maybe, I don't know. I think it's either that it could be that scenario, or it's straight up like, nah, I'm just gonna protect you from you, bro. Because if you get hurt, it's gonna look bad on me that I let you play it and you get hurt in your draft. So I don't know. It's gonna get overblown. It's gonna get washed away because it is the Pop-Tart Bowl. It wasn't like a playoff, but you know, it is what it is. You know, he won't be a Giant because they messed it up, so it don't matter, bro. I was hoping he's gonna be a Giant. It ain't gonna happen, but we'll stay in Miami because, like I said, they had an interesting week. I mean, the Dolphins suck. But there's a lot going on in Miami right now. You know, you got Jimmy Butler stuff. I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on. Hero scrapping. You know, that was interesting. But the Miami Hurricanes basketball team, Jim Larrañaga decided to step down as the head coach. You know, obviously, in the last decade or so, had a lot of success in Miami. Elite Eights, Final Four appearance. Just definitely big reason for their turnaround was, you know, when they got him, he definitely helped turn around a program that was really struggling. And we've always said that, you know, it's been a thing like we talked about, like program that should be better than we think. And Miami was one of those programs that he definitely got them back to being. And then last year, I think we thought they would be maybe win the ACC or at least be on one of the top teams. And they were like 4-8 at the time. I think they were 4-8 when he decided to retire, whatever you want to call it, resign, retire, quit, whatever. And a big reason, and what's been a lot of the commotion with his, you know, leaving is because essentially he said, "I'm tired of this NIL crap. I'm just tired of it." He just said that, and that definitely been a big thing that people have talked about negatively or agreed with him a lot of. But so I wanted to get your thoughts on kind of his reasoning and whether you agree with it or you disagree with it, with his reason essentially being that NIL has kind of messed up a lot for him. You know, had guys, I think he mentioned he went to the Final Four and had a bunch of dudes going to transfer portal. And he just said he just was tired of it. And we've seen a lot of coaches complain about NIL. This is not going to be the last. He's not going to be the last coach. It's going to be, we've seen, I mean, we just saw what's his face retire from Virginia, Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
Tony Bennett just retired because essentially for the same reason, you know, and with a tougher job. So you would think Miami, with all the money they've been influenced, and he just got a top 5 player in the country in Bethea. So just give me your thoughts about him leaving, resigning from Miami, and kind of his reasoning why he left Miami.
I mean, first of all, legendary coach, right? Took both George Mason and Miami to the Final Four.
George Mason, if you guys don't remember, if people listening and the younger listeners, George Mason, one of the biggest Cinderellas. They went to the Final Four. I forgot that run. I think they beat some. I think the UConn, and then they wound up losing to the defending national champions. They went to Florida. But an amazing run, you know, and that's what got him on the map.
Yeah. So again, he took 2 different programs to a Final Four. One, and 2 years ago they were just in the Final Four. And he mentioned, as you said, he said after they went to the Final Four in 2023, they had 8 dudes talk about going into the transfer portal, not because they were mad at Miami. Not because they were unhappy with their situation, but because they were trying to get a larger amount of NIL. And that's the unfortunate side of what we're currently dealing with right now. And I think that was kind of like the underlying theme about his final presser, you know, because I think especially when you're winning like that and you have all those guys head into your office to tell you things like that, like, come on now, like let's be realistic. And I get it to a certain extent, especially because let's be honest, the average college basketball player is probably not going to play past college. So I'm in full agreement with get as much money as you can, but also too, if you see yourself being a pro or trying to play after, go to the best opportunity and not just the biggest brand that's recruiting you, right? But all in all, I mean, let's be honest, it's another big blow for the ACC. Another one, right?
Massive.
We done lost Tony Bennett, Roy Williams, Coach K, and now Larrañaga, and all in a 5-year span, probably less than that, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, 3-4 year span,
yeah, you know, so it's a tough loss. And look, Miami's not good this year, right? They've lost to Mount St. Mary's, they lost to Charleston Southern, they lost to a very bad Oklahoma State team, They lost to Drake, which is probably their best loss, if that makes sense, because Drake's actually really good this year. Shout out to Coach McCullum out there in Iowa. But outside of that, it's just been rough. And I always say it's really no right time to retire, right? I mean, as a college basketball coach, consistently, college football, any college sports you're coaching, consistently, you're coaching, recruiting, on the phone with somebody 24/7. You get no rest, no vacations whatsoever. But he mentioned, I'm exhausted. He said, I try to keep this thing going in every which way, but I'm just tired. And he's 75 years old. He's done a lot of great things. He brought that program, I won't even say out the ashes because they're a respectable program, but he took that program to different heights, right? Like a few years ago, they were not getting the Jalil Batheas, but he got guys like Shane Larkin. He got guys like Bruce Brown. He got guys like Lonnie Walker to get down there, right? None of those guys, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think any of those guys are from the state of Florida. I know for a fact, Likes is from the DMV, Lonnie Walker's from Pennsylvania, and I can't remember where Shane Larkin is from, but you know what I'm saying? Like he's done a hell of a job, but it's just the facts of the matter is you could just tell he was just done. And it showed with how the team was playing. There was no life defensively. Offensively, they just looked like a whole bunch of just throwing stuff at the wall, trying to figure it out. And, you're one of your most highly heralded recruits, and Jalil Bethea is barely playing. And a lot of people were questioning why not, especially because the team is losing. So it's tough. You hate to see certain guys go out like that, but that's just where we're at. I'm not too mad at them just because, again, if you're tired, you don't feel like doing it, just let it go then. You know what I'm saying? That's the best thing that you can do. Don't keep a program handicapped just because you want to be selfish and you think you could drag it out. And he said, nah, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And I hope he enjoys retirement because he's been coaching for a long time. And again, as you mentioned, Miami has all the resources in the world to be a great program. First of all, just off the city that they're in, right? And then you have the NIL aspect, right? And then you're in the ACC. And yeah, potentially the ACC could just implode on itself, but you're still going to be playing against Duke. You're still going to be playing against Carolina. You're playing against all these other brands that are up and coming. So I think it's a great situation. I'm very curious to see the names. I've heard a few different names between Will Wade at McNeese right now, the former
I've
LSU
heard
coach.
Will Wade. Yeah,
I heard
Will
Richard
Wade.
Pitino. I heard the Patinos got ties down there. Patino's currently at New Mexico right now. So I want to see who's going to end up being the next head coach. And I think that's a very fascinating aspect of this. Right now, the associate head coach is getting bumped up, Bill Courtney, who's been on the bench with Coach Larrañaga for a long time now. But all in all, it's tough. But again, it's another major loss for the ACC. And I mean, look, they start conference play tomorrow, or New Year's Day, against Boston College, at Boston College. So it's going to be a long season for the Canes and Canes fans that have been supported, especially the last few years where they had so much success going from an Elite Eight to a Final Four in back-to-back years. But, shout out Coach L, man. I think he had a hell of a run. And look, again, not everybody's trying to navigate this NIL transfer portal world, and I don't blame him either. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily a good or a bad thing, but I mean, he was honest with us. I think more than anything, that's all we could say is that he was honest. And I appreciate that more than anything.
And that's where I respect, because he didn't go around it. He just said, man, this is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an old head. He came in from a different era and he just wasn't with trying to adjust. And I know people are going to look at it and say, well, he quit on his team. And I could see it in a little bit, but when you 75 years old and you have to deal with this type of the world we live in with NIL and transfer portal and everything with the recruit, just on top of the day-to-day of being college, like you mentioned, just being a college coach in general, right? What you got to deal, make sure your kids are going to class, make sure they work out, make sure they're doing this, stay eligible, all this crap on top. And now you got to worry about, I got to keep recruiting my own players to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to see, all right, but then you got to be like, hey, who's out there potentially that can help me win games? Because no matter what, I don't care if you got the everyone's a good student. It don't matter. Wins and losses is what keeps your job. So you need the good players. You got to see who's on the recruiting. You worrying about the boozer. We're in on the boozer kids. I'm sure that's deflating too. Like being in on, like you have a legit chance. You're in the running and then you don't get them. So I mean, all that stuff adds up, and it's just, at least he just said straight up, man, I can't do this NIL. It's just too much for me right now. I rather that than the coaches that are just like complaining every week. We got to change all that, and just just keep every year it's the same thing. It's like, all right, either well then leave. Then if you don't like it, leave. Chip Kelly it. Chip Kelly, I don't be that coach no more. I'm just gonna coach off. Let Ryan Day worry about that. Let me just coach, and I respect that. If that's how you, then do that, please. I don't need you to complain every week about it. It's either you adapt or take a lesser job where you don't got to worry about that, or retire or quit, whatever. And he did that, but he had a good run. He's there. I think he got there 2012, 2011, and I think his second year almost won 30 games. So he a great run, Final Four, Elite Eight. Last few years. I mean, that definitely I could see where it wore on him. But he had some good players. I'm watching Charlotte right now. He got Isaiah Wong there. The Charlotte Hornets. Isaiah Wong's playing. So he's had some good players. That Shane Larkin. Some good players. So just didn't work out. But it's going to be interesting to see who was in that. You said Richard Pitino. I think that's just a match made in heaven. I mean, Patinos feel like Miami. I think that's a job. Miami's a job. Like we talk about with St. John's, you kind of need someone who's a New Yorker, understands it. I think Miami's kind of that same way. You kind of try to find someone who fits that Miami feel, Miami vibe. So we'll see. But great coach. Like I said, we're going to see more of these older coaches that have been in this. I think we're going to see them start phasing out. I mean, not too far from Miami, Florida State, he getting sued. He's gonna be out soon.
Definitely, yeah.
He's gonna be out real soon. So that's just a matter of time. But we're gonna see a lot of new faces in college basketball. We're gonna get to a point where we're gonna be like, there's no national champions anymore. Like it's just gonna be, it's definitely gonna be but it's either you adapt or this is what it is. I just want coaches done. This is the new era, man. And there need to be better regulations, everything. But this is the new world. You gotta adapt. If not, then you just resign or take a lesser job being assistant coach. Go coach in the NBA, something if you think it's less stressful. But this is times, and I've said older coaches are not gonna be fans of what's going on. But it is the new world of college basketball, Kevin. You got to be able to if you want to stay in it, you got to be able to adapt. And certain coaches can. But as we've seen, especially college basketball, a lot of these coaches are like, I made enough money. I'm peacing out. So I think we can expect a lot more of the older heads, start to bail out. And then we're going to see a lot of new faces in college basketball on the sidelines.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you mentioned Leonard Hamilton. I definitely keep an eye out for Mark Few this offseason. I think there's a very real possibility that could happen. Izzo.
I mean, his plane almost crashed.
Yeah, that situation is crazy. That's a crazy situation.
If that's not a sign for Mark Few to get out, I don't know what is, man. And
shout out to the Gonzaga team because that's a crazy situation. But
I saw that and I thought it was fake. It looked fake. And then I saw, I was like, oh, no, that's real. Like legit news outlets I was like, that was close, man.
That's a scary situation, bro. So definitely shout out to them. But yeah, I definitely look out for him. Izzo, I think is gonna kick as long as he possibly can. Personally, I'm not just saying that because he's my coach, but I can just if you listen to his post game press conference speeches, I really just think he's literally gonna go until he just can't anymore. Bill Self is another one. He had the health issues a couple years ago. With the heart where he couldn't really coach in the NCAA tournament when they lost in that second round of Arkansas. So, it's just where we're at, though. I mean, I just think it's a major transition. It's a major shift in the game. And I do think a lot of these guys are important because they're pillars to the game. And, yeah, it's changing, but we still need their voice. We still need the regulation. And I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from Larrañaga's retirement presser. He said, and I quote, he said, when there's no transparency, there's no professionalism in the sport. And I think that's like the main thing that I took from him because he's right. And we can blame the players, we can blame the coaches, we can blame the agents to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, this is the NCAA's fault because they
Oh,
had
it's always, it starts with them.
yeah,
There's
always
they
yeah.
it could have been an easy solution. Just give the kids a couple dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and you did it. And then guess what? It's on them. It's always gonna be on them.
And really, like, to me, the amount is like whatever, you know. To me, the main thing is that you plan this thing out years in advance, right? They passed the law to allow this to go years in advance, and I can't remember the exact year that it went into effect, but it hasn't been more than 5 years if I'm not mistaken. And now it's just gone completely off the wall, right? People are taking it to that most extreme point as possible, and it's really no going back. And so I don't know if the NCAA is going to intervene. I don't know if they're just going to kick back and relax like they've always done historically, which is probably the route that they're going to go. But they got to figure this out because I don't think it has, but ultimately you don't want it to affect the on-court, on-field, whatever product. You know, that's the last thing that you want to happen. And, you know, again, we're seeing unfortunate situations right now, like the Leonard Hamilton situation where he's getting sued by players because they're not fulfilling their promises. We've seen the Tyreek Smith situation at Memphis before the season started. He was saying, hey, I'm not getting paid. I'm about to transfer, left the team for a little bit, came back. So it's like it's just too much going on. We've seen the UNLV quarterback situation this year where they were balling all season and he just dips out of nowhere. Like, we can't allow this to keep going because, again, this is just not how the game should be. This is not how the sport should be. This is not how, you know, quote unquote amateur sports should be going. So NCAA got to get right too, because more than anything, them old heads in the NCAA need to retire more than these head coaches do. If we're really calling a spade, because there's a whole bunch of dinosaurs up there that make these plays, that make these calls. You see it with the college football committee, right? Every year they show us those old people that are just in those rooms making all these decisions, and clearly it's just passed them up. So I don't know, man. That's just my little rant right there. I don't want to continue going on it because at the end of the day, the on-court product is still good. I want to make that very known and clear. So
And that's what overshadows is that there's still a lot of good hoop going on.
Yep.
And we're just talking about the nonsense that the NCAA has created, and it's on them. We want to blame the players, we want to blame the coaches, we want to blame this. No, it's the NCAA's fault for letting this get to this point, because we all knew it was not fair that kids were not allowed to get money. And it wasn't just not that wasn't fair to not allowed to get money. It was the amount of times they would get in trouble if we hear, oh, they did a signing they're signing autographs to get a little cash, get $1,500, or you hear the stories of kids getting in trouble for getting pizza on the pizzeria. It's on them. Like, for pizza? We're going to suspend a kid for games for pizza? $1 pizza? So they made it go to so extreme, and all kids really wanted was like, yo, we just need some money. We're not even asking for kids weren't asking for million. They weren't asking for this, but they were like, yo, we should be able to make some money if we go to do a little signing, $1,500 signing. Get that. We should be able to eat, because you can't work. You can't listen. You cannot be a Division I athlete and work a job. You can't. You can't be the starting quarterback and I gotta work at fucking Subway.
Nah.
So I can make money so I can eat. So something had to give, and the NCAA is like, no, they're student athletes. And then it got to a point, and it just boom, the floodgates open, and it's like, oh no, now we got kids making 7-figure deals. AJ DeBantis has got $7 million. Cam Ward got $3 million to go to Miami. Y'all did this. If y'all just would have gave a couple of guys, I mean, you know what? Y'all make your little money. Y'all do your little signings. Y'all can make that. That's all they were asking for, Kev. And now look with it. Now, oh my God, how this is ridiculous. Oh no, y'all did it. Y'all did it to yourselves. And now you're losing your coach. You're losing not just good coaches, historically good coaches. Coach K is gone. Roy Williams is gone. Tony Bennett is gone. He's one of the younger. He just came on the scene, if you want to think about it. He's gone. You lose, Boeheim's gone. Yep. These guys would still be coaching if you had just, but you guys let it get out of hand. Get kids get in trouble for little things, tattoos. You know, it's like, really? We're going to suspend kids over the nonsense? The Reggie Bush lost his Heisman. Like, come on now. And now you let it. Now, oh my God, this is insane. And then now the players are looking bad. It's like, no, we're just taking advantage of the system. The system is allowing us to get this type of money. That's bleak. Because, like you said, not everyone's gonna be a pro. Most, especially in basketball, there's only 60 guys get drafted. Half of them are only 15 of them, 20 of them are going to be in the league for more than a few years. So most of these kids ain't gonna. But they did it themselves. So that's what I'm saying. But shout out to Jim Larrañaga, great coach, probably a Hall of Fame type of coach. Like I said, George Mason stuff is probably that's what got him on the map, man. That's why I remember that. That was legendary what he did in that run. But shout out to him. See what happens with Miami. I think that's still a top 30-ish job in the country. I think you get the right coach, you could. It's Miami, man. It's not hard to tell a kid, man, you in Miami, you in South Beach, dog. Come on now. That's the selling point. That's like I always say with these Florida schools, man, the pitch is easy. You got to figure out, you just got to get the right person in there. But shout out to Miami. Not a good season for Miami, but great coach. But hopefully we don't see too many coaches, these elite coaches leaving, but it's looking that way though with the way college basketball is. But speaking of new wave, we're gonna talk about the freshman class, because this freshman class has been hooping. They have been doing great, and it is filled with a bunch of dudes that are gonna probably you're gonna be hearing their names come 2025 draft. So just to rip off, I'm going on threes. Top 20 guys, and obviously we all know who number one player is. It was Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Jalil Patel went to Miami, Jaden Quainance, Ian Jackson, Donnie Freeman, Kamal Molach, Liam McNeely, Ace Newell, who's balling, Drake Powell, Derek Queen balling, Isaiah Emmons. Thank God that Shire, bro. Finally. Darren Reed, Badunga, Boogie, Khan, and then Bryce Tucker. That's the top 20. So obviously most of these guys are the top 4 players in the country might be the top 4 picks in the draft with Flagg, Ace. Now, Ace, it feels like his stock has dropped a little bit, because obviously not the playmaker, but we all knew that, right? But I feel like with Ace, he's raw, but I feel like if he gets in the right system and he could be an elite wing in this league in the NBA. So, but let's start off with the first few guys. Cooper Flagg, obviously Duke. Well, what's been your take so far with Cooper Flagg and his start to his season so far?
Exactly what I expected for the most part. I think I don't even think the knock is really on him. I think it's more on Shire in the roster construction, but I just wish he would have had a more reliable point guard. And you're kind of seeing Khan slip a little bit. I think it's more of a freshman wall than slip. I think Khan will get it together. I don't think he's the dominant scorer that people want Khan to be, but I do think he can be a reliable scorer. I just think right now he's hit that freshman wall. But as far as Cooper goes, I mean, he's doing everything that we expected, right? He's the ultimate glue guy, right? He blocks shots. He guards the other team's best player. He got the mid-range jumper down. He can dunk on you. He can post you up. Like, it's a lot of things that
Cooper lock you up
does. Yeah, he can lock you up. Like, he has everything, right? He can push in transition. He can run sets for you. Anything you ask Cooper Flagg to do as a coach, he can do for you on the court. And I think that's where his value lies. Again, he's not a dominant scorer like some of these other guys, but that's fine because he does everything else. And you need guys like that. And that's been my main thing. I mean, you look at some of the biggest performances y'all have had, he's had great moments, right? He's had spotlight moments. And so I appreciate everything about his game because you never question his motor. You never question his consistency. You never question any of that. He just goes out there, plays hard, makes the right plays for the most part, and makes basketball way easier for himself and especially his teammates. So I think Cooper Flag has been pretty much everything that Duke fans and people that are fans of basketball could have asked for so far.
Yeah, I mean, he just turned 18, not too long ago. So that's another thing. He's super young. He should be, in high school senior right now. But he's been through the mud already. Like he's been through already in his young basketball career. So he's been through the grind. He knows what it takes. He's a team player. And I think that's the important thing. He's a team player. He's gonna go out there and do whatever's needed. We need you to rebound, but he's going, all right. We need you to lock up, lock up. We need you to get to the cup, do that. And he just knows his role. And it's crazy to think that a guy who's projected to be the face of a franchise is kind of like the ultimate, role player in a way, and people might take that as a low, something low, but it's like, no, man, it's important. That's important to be good at every little thing. Like that's going to go a long way, especially when you're still trying to figure out your shot, right? Because then, that's the one thing he's got to get consistent with. And, but to be good at everything else, like it shows, a lot of pressure with him, but he's definitely lived up so far. He's definitely, and, I think he's still going to be, at this point, he's still going to be the number one pick, I think. Regardless of who has it, I think he's still going to be number one pick, but he's been as advertised. I know people are probably expecting crazy 25 a game, but that was never the goal for him. And he's doing exactly what he's done, and he's done a great job. All right, let's go with the Rutgers duo with Ace and Dylan. Dylan just had a triple-double today. He's been the more consistent of the two. He's had some monster games, some big scoring games, some big assist game. Ace has had some moments. He's dealt with some injuries, but he's had some moments too. But people are going to bring up kind of the lack of playmaking and lack of assists with him. So that's going to be something that's going to get kind of nicked, with the draft. But to right now, what's your thoughts on the duo of Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey so far at Rutgers? There's been up and down season for the Rutgers right now.
Yeah, I definitely start with Ace. I'm not too worried about him just because I think as a supreme scorer, just when you translate to any level, it takes you a little bit of time to figure out your spots to where to score at and where to be effective at. And I watched their game versus Columbia earlier today, and Columbia went into a zone for a minute. Rutgers just stuck Ace right in the middle of the zone, and every single time he catch it, turn face, shoot, knock down for the most part. Like that, he shot them out of that zone by himself. So he is exactly what you want out of a talented scorer, right? He got the post game, he got the catch and face, he got the rip through, he got a full bag in his triple threat. And it's just a lot that he can do, especially being at that size. There's not too many guys that are going to match him up.
6'10", man.
Yeah, it's not too many guys in the country that can match up with him height for height that can really get a hand in his face and knock him off, his shot. So I think that's what makes him very talented, very skilled. A lot of people are going to knock him because he doesn't get to the paint as much as he should. But I honestly just think that that's going to come with time just because he's not that strong right now. That's really what it is. He got to put on weight. Yeah, he's skinny. You look at him out there, he's skinny as I don't know what. He got to get in that weight room, and I know he will because 9 times out of 10, every dude that's coming out of college to the NBA, that's one of the biggest things they got to work on is just getting strong, right? And for Ace, I'm not worried about that whatsoever. So I think eventually he's going to start getting to the paint. He's going to start making plays in the paint, and he's going to start making life easier for his teammates, especially when the game slows down in his head. But as far as Dylan goes, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I think it is a great chance that he goes number one. Like, I think Dylan does everything. I mean, I think
if the Wizards have the number one pick, the Wizards get the number one pick. I know Coop sounds, but I think Harper is a better fit for them. It may not be box office, and maybe that's what certain teams like that will look at, but I think he's a better fit. And I know they got Bub, but I think they could work together too.
Yeah, and I just think to this day, I don't know how tall he is, but I know he's at least 6'6", right?
He's like his pops. He's a big. Exactly. His pops was a 6'6", 6'7" point guard. Like it's crazy how much he's similar. And people forget his pops before he went to the Bulls. He was a 20-point per game scorer. He was a bucket with the Clippers and stuff. You know, it went to the Bulls where he kind of sacrificed and just wanted to win shit and just lock people up.
Yeah.
You know, him and MJ locking up people in the backcourt, but he's a 6'6", 6'7" jumbo point guard. You know, his pops.
It's nothing that you can do with that. You know what I'm saying? You look at the landscape of the NBA right now, like Dylan is seeing over everybody trying to guard him. If you're bigger than him, you're too slow laterally to move. He's gonna get right around you. If you're smaller than him, he's gonna back you down and get to a spot and just raise and fire over you, knock it down. He got the floater game, he got the mid-range game, he can dunk on you. He's been elite from the three-point line in my opinion, and he just has that takeover game effect in my opinion. Like it's nothing you could do with them. I mean, you go back and watch some of their games, especially at the Players Era Festival when they went to Vegas. They lost some tough games. They lost to A&M, and I believe they lost to Alabama in overtime. But he was going crazy. He kept them in the game damn near single-handedly. And so I honestly think, you know, NBA scouts and teams are going to have a long offseason and long preparation trying to get ready for that draft because he's making a lot of noise, man. And he's been sensational. This is why I've always felt like he was that dude. I mean, the first time I watched him, I already knew what it was. I mean, he's taking transition threes with no hesitation. Remember, he had the game winner walk-up three against Seton Hall. Like, he just has it. He has that star enigma to him. And so Dylan Harper is going to be a problem for a long time. Again, as you just mentioned, the NBA genetics run in his veins. So he's already pretty much set from that aspect. And I think he's going to be a major problem once he gets to that three-letter association.
He's him, man. I mean, he was a Blue Devil before Coop decided to reclassify. You know, he was there. You know, so I've been watching him because that was the guy that was our guy until Coop decided. But everyone, we all thought maybe Ace could be the one that could take over Flag for that number one spot. And I still think Flag's gonna be the number one pick because I think box office, because I think a lot of teams think that way more than like the actual play. I think they just ticket sales. But he's him. He's special. He's really good, and I think I see a lot of to me he reminds me of a bigger Jalen Brunson. Like a bigger Jalen Brunson. Imagine a bigger version of Jalen Brunson playing point guard.
Yep.
Like Jalen Brunson's what, 6 foot, 6'1", and he's strong. Like you see Jalen Brunson bullying guards, and you're like, how is this dude bullying it? And I'm like, I see Harper, I'm like, he's a bigger version of Jalen Brunson. He's efficient too. In the restricted areas, especially finishes. Shoots like 38% from three. And he's shooting a nice amount. It's not like it's just off, 10 shooting. I forgot last time I looked. It was like 83 he has somewhere, something like that. Could be wrong off, but like shooting 37% from three from there. Like, he just understands. Like he's good in the clutch. How many big shots he's hit already? If there's anyone that's gonna, they thought it was Ace potentially, but depending on it, like if I'm the Wizards, you got a bunch of wings. You got Sar. You want to unlock Sar? Maybe that's the guy. I think so. But as far as Ace is going to be all right. I think he's someone that he probably projects better at the NBA level than when he look in college, simply because you got to create stuff for him where, Dylan can, he has control of the rock. But I think they're both going to be top 4 picks. Ace is going to be good. When Ace he reminds me of like Rashard Lewis, like a more fluid Rashard Lewis. Like he 6'10", can shoot over anyone. He'll figure it out. He's gonna be good. But they gotta, hopefully we get to see them in March. Hopefully we get to see them in March, because that'll be fun to see those two. All right, VJ Edgecombe. He's another one who's super bouncy, another guy who was on Duke's radar, looked like potentially. So I was been locked up, and I told you a lot about him. He went to Long Island Lutheran, a powerhouse out here in New York. They just breathe. I mean, they got a bunch of dudes, and so you could kind of get lost in that when you got a bunch of 4-star, 5-star, that, and he stood out, and he's at Baylor, and he's it goes back to where when they were Bahamas almost qualified for the Olympics. and he was like with pros on the team. Buddy Hield's on the team, Aiton's on the team. I forgot who else is on the team. They had pros on it, and they were like, "Yo,
Eric Gordon,
Eric Gordon, right?"
mm-hmm.
And he was a standout, you know. So VJ Edgecombe, like, so how do you feel about him so far? You know, Baylor's kind of had an up and down season, but how we feel about VJ so far this season?
Yeah, man, very similar to what you said about Ace Bailey. His game just naturally translates better to the NBA, if I'm being honest with you guys. And let's also call a spade, because I feel like a lot of people aren't addressing this, but Baylor just is not that good of a team as we thought they were going to be heading into the season, man.
Very disappointing.
And I know we all jumped out. I'm saying we, I didn't really, but I'll say we just for the facts of the matter. But a lot of us jumped out the window with Gonzaga because they blasted them so bad that we thought Gonzaga was this nasty national championship team. But it's like, it's one game, and Baylor has not shown us anything to make us want to believe in them. And honestly, a lot of the Big 12 hasn't, but we'll save that conversation for another day. But as far as VJ, he's just a natural athlete. And I think the spacing of the NBA benefits him a lot more, because you're looking at this Baylor team. They don't really have a big man that can guard the rim. I don't think they did a great job of trying to replace the void that Jalen Bridges left, because Jalen Bridges, in my opinion, was probably their biggest X factor last season. He did everything for them at that 4 spot. And now it's just kind of clunky, right? You're trying to work in Jeremy Roach. You're trying to work in Norchad Omier. You're trying to work in Celestine from Cal. It's just too many moving parts. And I think for a freshman, you're trying to figure it all out yourself. You're trying to figure out, hey, where do I fit in and how can I impact winning? And I think that's been the toughest transition for him. And again, I'm not down on him by any means. Again, he's going to be fine. I want to emphasize that a lot, because it's just a natural transition, but he'll be fine. I still think he'll go, if he doesn't go lottery, he'll definitely go first round for sure. I don't think he'll ever drop out the first round. He's just a natural athlete, and that's what the NBA is all about right now. And hopefully, you know, as these next few months round out, he can curate his game, put some good game film together, put some highlights together, and kind of boost up his draft stock again. But really, it's kind of just a detriment to him, because Baylor's just not that good. And that's the tough part about it. And he's trying to figure it out, but I mean, he needs guys to help him out, and that he's just not getting that production right now because of everything going on around him. And honestly, Scout Drew's program just has not been the same since Jerome Tang left, right? The defense has not been the same. They don't play with the same intensity on that end of the floor, and it's just not hitting the same as when they won it in 2021. So all in all, it goes back to situations. I mean, I feel like this happens every year where we have a prospect super high going into their college year. They fall off a little bit, kind of fly under the radar, and then they get drafted to the NBA kind of lower than what we expected, and then they make noise. And I expect VJ Edgecombe to do the exact same thing just because he's a dog. And again, the spacing is the biggest thing, bro. He just needs that room to operate with, and he's not going to get that playing at Baylor, and especially playing in the Big 12.
Yeah, and he's not even the best freshman on the team right now. Playing the best, right? Wright's playing better than them. You know what it reminds me of? It could be like a Cam Whitmore situation.
Yep.
Where we all thought Cam Whitmore, like I had Cam Whitmore as a top 5 player, you know, and he went in the 20s, right? To Houston in the 20s, right?
Yep.
I don't think that's gonna happen, but I could now more than ever, I could see it potentially him dropping, maybe not that far down, but I could see a situation where, I mean, people thought maybe he's top 3. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, you know, the shooting people worry about, but that was always a thing. That was always a thing, you know, and obviously he's not shooting great. I think he's in the 20s as far as shooting threes, but I could see a situation where you might get yourself a steal. Somebody might get a steal. So it could be a blessing in disguise on him, but you know, we'll see how if entering Big 12 play, if he picks it up, I think he will. He's too talented to not to. So, go to see. I keep forgetting that Texas is no longer in the Big 12. I was gonna say another Big 12 guy, SEC guy, Trey Johnson, bucket,
man,
bucket. I don't know, but I've seen people complain about his shot selection. And one comparison I heard a lot is like Cam Thomas at LSU, like just unfiltered, like just like that's all he does is he's gonna shoot. Now, obviously, we see Cam Thomas now, and it kind of is the same, right? He's a bucket, you know, but that's all you do. But
exactly,
is it, you know, I definitely could see that in the pros, you know. But he's a bigger version of Cam Thomas. I think he's a little bit better all around than Cam Thomas was right now. But Trey Johnson, obviously, he's a lot of big scoring outputs. How we feel about him so far at Texas this year?
He's lit up to the billing, I think, just as much as any freshman in the country. And I can understand the shot selection concerns, but I think in the right place, in the right system, they could kind of reel him in a little bit to understand, hey, this is what we need from you, right? Because for the most part, when you're that gifted of a scorer, when you're playing youth basketball, nobody's going to be as good as you to where they need to take the same amount of shots as you. So Trey Johnson's used to being on the best team, playing with guys that aren't probably as good as him. I mean, he played for Link last year where that was a very talented team, and he did fine. So I think if you put him in a good situation where he doesn't have to be relied upon to carry you on most nights like Cam Thomas, I think he'll be fine. Give him a good coach or give him a competent coach. He'll be really good. This dude is, as you mentioned, a bucket. Like, it's nothing that you could do with him, right? He's a pure just bucket getter, right? You can run him off screens. You can run him off pin downs. He's great at moving off the ball and getting to open spots to make, life easier for his teammate to find him. He got the mid-range pull-up. He has everything.
Like, efficient, too. Shooting a three at a high clip.
That's my thing. Again, like, you can – if a dude is an efficient shot chucker, then to me, I don't even know why we're calling him a shot chucker. Because – I mean, and let's be honest, like, Texas needs this from him, right? I mean, outside of Tremont Mark, you don't have too many guys where you can put the ball in their hands and just be like, hey, go get us one. Trey Johnson, regardless of scenario, situation, whatever the case may be, you can give him the rock and he's going to make a play, whether it's for himself or whether it's for somebody else. And I think that's another underrated aspect of his game. He knows if a double team is headed my way, I can drop it off to my open teammate. If I'm running the pick and roll and the roller is wide open for a lob, I'm going to throw the lob. Like, he's a good playmaker. And so he's another guy that his game is going to translate just fine. I think him already playing as well, he's been playing, especially because he had to really take it up a notch early in the season because Tremont Mark wasn't playing. But now that Tremont Mark is back for that Texas team, it helps ease the pressure off him a little bit more. So to me, I mean, Trey Johnson is the goods. Everything about him is built to win.
Yeah, and like I said, I saw a lot of people, especially in the draft space, say the Cam Thomas comp and just like they don't like the shot quality. But I was like, I don't know, he's shooting pretty efficient this year, though. And I don't know, I don't remember Cam Thomas's splits. I would have to go back and see. But I don't remember. I feel like he feels like he was more efficient than Cam Thomas was at LSU. Just from remembering Cam Thomas at LSU, because Cam Thomas went like late first round, right? Because of that, and I don't think Trey is in the same. I think right now, if we were to draft right now, Trey Johnson's a top 10 pick. So I don't think it's, and he's a lot bigger too than Cam Thomas. So, but yeah, he's having a good season. And overall, Texas is, they're shooting very efficient this season. And he's a big part of that. But he's been good. He's been really good this year. I mean, he's definitely going to be considered for an All-American team right now.
I was just about to say, I put up his stats. He's averaging 19 points a game. 1, right? 2, he's shooting 49% from the field, ladies and gentlemen. 49% from the field.
I got his thing, yeah.
3, he's shooting 44% from 3 on 6 attempts per game.
So he's shooting at a high volume in college.
High volume and efficient at that. So to me, I mean, yeah, Trey Johnson's just wired to go. Like, I watched him when he was playing for Team Griffin. I watched him again, as I mentioned, when he was playing for Link, originally from the state of Texas. He's just built to go, and that's just what he does. He knows how to score, and he does it from everywhere. Again, posting up, mid-range game, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line a lot too. Like, he has it. So I think he's built, and I think he's honestly one of those guys that could potentially down the line be an all-star shooting guard, honestly.
Yep. I think he's good. I think he's definitely going to go a lot higher than Cam did. And people made the mistake with Cam. He should not have been the last pick in the first round. Like, he should have went a lot higher. So let's not make that mistake again. So I won't get into every other, but let's just, in that next tier, who's been someone that's kind of surprised you and kind of who's been disappointing for you?
I won't say surprised because I actually like this dude, but I definitely think he got lost because his high school class was very, very good in this 2020, what would that be, 2023 class. But Victorious Miller from LSU has been very, very good for Coach McMahon and the Tigers down there in Baton Rouge. And this dude is a 6'5" guard, shooting guard, And he's originally from out here, actually. Of course, he's the son of Silk the Shocker, the nephew of Master P, and part of that family.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Basketball's
That's
literally in their
throwback.
DNA.
That's Silk the Shocker is my, to show my age. That's when I was a teenager, Silk the Shocker. That was
He's averaging 12 points per game for the Tigers this year, right? And I just think he's been highly effective in everything that he's doing. He just knows how to impact winning at a high level. He can break you down off the bounce. He can get to the rim. He's very crafty with both hands when he's at the rim. He's a very good in catch and shoot situations. He knows how to pass. He knows how to play within the offense. He has good rhythm, good pacing. Everything about him just screams that he was ready to go. And he's going to be a factor for LSU this year. And I don't know if he's going to maybe enter the draft this year, but if I was him, I'd probably come back next year, be the star, be the guy, and then go. But he's doing a lot of things for that Tigers program that you just cannot undervalue whatsoever. And so I think for him, more than anything, he chose the right school. He was originally committed to Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, he probably would have been fine.
Yeah, he was supposed to go to Oregon. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, he probably would have been fine there too. But I think he goes back to his roots, right? He goes back down to Louisiana, and he's a lot closer to a lot of his family, and he's making the most of it. So I definitely feel like I had to shout him out because he was one of my favorite players in that class. He went to AZ Compass. And again, I feel like he just kind of got lost in the show for some reason because he was highly touted for a minute. And he was one of those guys that kind of popped off early and then he kind of dropped off, going into things. But to me, Victorious Miller has been a stud. And then I'll go LeBaron Philon, man, sticking in the SEC. I mean, you look at what he's done for Kansas. He was originally committed to Kansas, actually. But you look at what he's done for Alabama. He's from Mobile. And he's another guy that just fits Nate Oates' offense to a T. And my biggest concern with Alabama this past offseason was who's going to be the guy that kind of replaces the do-it-all guard play from Rylan Griffin that he gave them last year in the run to the Final Four. And I think LeBaron Philon has stepped into that role to a T and thrived and took off with it, right? Just ran with the baton because not only does he guard pretty well, but he knows how to get into the lane. He just fits in that offense, right? He knows how to just play off other guards. And I think that's another thing because he went to Link. He was there with Trey Johnson, right? So that he knows how to play off other high-level guards with Mark Sears and the rest of those guys, and he's thriving because of it. And he's had some great moments for them, and I expect him to only get better too. So I definitely want to shout out to LeBaron because he's a guy that just really does it all. And then as far as disappointments, I mean, to me,
who do you feel like someone that they picked the wrong school? And it's kind of looking that way. Is there anyone like that?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Their fan base is probably going to be mad at me if I say this. I mean, I'm going to say this, but if they hear this, they're probably going to be mad at me. I'm going to go Will Riley because Will Riley was probably one of the most intriguing reclasses to me just because he's another guy that just he's built with that Cam Thomas, Trey Johnson archetype where he's just wired to go. And he is a major bucket getter. I don't want to devalue that whatsoever, but I just don't think it was in his right space for him to just take that leap to go to college, especially at a program like Illinois that's very solidified, that wants to win a lot of games. And he was playing a lot of minutes, and he was cooking. I think he had a couple 30-point games, if I'm not mistaken. But I think as the season winds up, he's not going to be the lottery pick that a lot of people kind of expected him to be. Now, could he still do that? Could he absolutely prove me wrong? Of course. I'm not denying that whatsoever. But I just don't think his game was really predicated to just walk in and be the guy. Unlike
he was hooping early, though, right? He was.
Yeah,
I felt like I remember him having some big games, and then he's kind of tailed off because especially Kasparis there.
Exactly.
He's like
killing.
He's cooking, and they're talking about top 5 with him.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not so much that Will Riley's bad. I just didn't see the lottery pick aspirations right now. First of all, he hasn't put on weight, as we already mentioned. Most of these guys do, but you can tell he's just extra skinny. Second of all, he's at Illinois where even though he can score, you got to go through Kylan Boswell, Kasparis, Trey White. Even Ivisic is playing very good basketball for them right now. Yeah. So, it's just a lot of guys, and then you're trying to figure out how do I get my shots in my spots, and that's my thing. It's like, how do you impact the game outside of scoring? And honestly, Will Riley doesn't really do that well. He doesn't defend at a high level. It's not like he's a great playmaker. So I just think it's not that he chose the right school. I just don't think he like reclassing was the best situation for him right now. And I understand a lot of families want to speed up the process and get to the NBA as fast as they can. That's all good and everything, but I just don't think it was the right move necessarily for him. Unlike a guy who's probably been, you can make a case he's been the best freshman in the country, and that's Jeremiah Fears. Because what he's doing is, it honestly needs to be highlighted way more. And I tweeted about this a few days ago. Like, this dude reclassed at the very last minute. Like, Cooper Flag kind of reclassed, I want to say, like, right after Peach Jam, if I'm not mistaken.
Right
and
after,
then,
yeah.
Yeah, and then he was on his way to Duke, right? He was already a freshman at that point. Jeremiah Fears did not reclass until like late in the year. And he was one of the last guys to officially get on a D1 roster, ends up at Oklahoma. And let's be honest, Porter Moser has not really had any positive momentum since he's been there at Oklahoma. Last year was supposed to be a successful season for him with J.V. McCollum and Otega Owe and John Hughley, all these guys. He had a lot of talent, but you're seeing they've gone off to other places and they're thriving now. Owe's at Kentucky doing his thing. Hughley's at Xavier doing his thing. J.V. McCollum's down there at Georgia Tech. Milos Uzan's at Houston right now, right? But Porter Moser desperately needed some positive momentum, and Jeremiah Fears walked into Norman, Oklahoma, and has been dominant. I mean, just absolutely dominant. I think it started with the battle for Atlantis down there in the Bahamas, right? He had some big-time moments. They won it all. They're undefeated right now. He had a game-winning and one play against Michigan to send them home in that Jumpman Invitational out there in Charlotte. Everything that he's doing is unprecedented, honestly, because, again, not only is he a reclass point guard, but is leading to wins for a program that
undefeated.
And again, I don't want to make it seem like Oklahoma is like not a good basketball program, because historically they've been really good with Trae Young, Blake Griffin, amongst other guys, right? But again, just if you're looking at Porter Moser's tenure alone, he has not had any good or meaningful traction out there. And I think Jeremiah Fears is the guy that's going to put butts in the seats and have that arena packed out for.
This is a big year for Porter Moser. This is year 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, hasn't had too much success. Now they're in the SEC. He needed this year to happen. And listen, they haven't played a lot of good teams, but he needed this one. He definitely needed this one.
And so I gotta salute to Jeremiah, man, because he's been doing this thing. And then my last one that I'll definitely
before you go,
mm-hmm.
It showed you that the rating system is Fears was like in the, let me pull up here, 71st ranked player according to On3.
Crazy.
That just shows you sometimes when we look at the ranking of the actual ranking,
mm-hmm.
we can't look at that because he's a 4-star, but he may be closer to the 20s. You know, it just shows you how close, that number, where you rank, it could be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It could, because he was a lot closer than to being a top 15, top 10 guy than he is being to the hundreds. But it just shows you, if you find there's some good players. I know we want to look at the Ace Baileys and the Coopers and the Noels, but you can Oklahoma just found maybe the guy who saved his job.
Exactly.
As one of the the lower mid-tier 4-stars,
mm-hmm.
But it's just all about finding the right player that fits your system.
And that's the main thing about this. Again, what I said earlier, you have to choose fit over brand. Do not worry about a brand. Just because you're a Duke fan growing up does not mean that you got to go to Duke, with all due respect, or Kansas or Kentucky.
We talk about that. How many dudes
mm-hmm.
How many freshmen transfer out of Duke every year?
Exactly.
And guess what's going to happen next year? There's going to be a bunch of dudes transferring out of Duke this year.
Exactly. And so I'm going to say 3 more names. One is a dude that I think chose the wrong school, and then the other 2 are actually thriving. One is Trent Perry, who I think chose the wrong school, because I'll be honest, even though UCLA is having a great season so far, Mick Cronin is doing wonders, right? They had a big-time win at the Intuit Dome this past weekend against Gonzaga. You can make a case that Trent Perry is better than at least 2 of the guards playing ahead of him, with all due respect. Sky Clark has been fine. Dylan Andrews has been fine. But Trent Perry is really good, ladies and gentlemen. And Mick Cronin has a thing where he doesn't really like to play freshmen unless he absolutely has to. And that's kind of been his Achilles heel, because remember, this is the same dude that recruited Peyton Watson. He recruited Dacian Nix, who obviously didn't go there, ended up leaving, going to the G League. But he doesn't have a reputation as playing freshmen. He likes to rely on his older guys. Even last year when they were struggling, Sebastian Mack was their leading scorer, and he refused to give Sebastian Mack any credit because they weren't winning like that. But again, in the moments and minutes that Trent Perry has played, he's looked like a stellar guard for UCLA. So regardless, though, I think it's good for him because he'll probably be back more than likely next year as a sophomore. But Trent Perry is very, very good. So I'm gonna shout out to my Cali guy right there real quick. But again, it's not so much that he chose the wrong school. I just think he could have went somewhere else. Like it's actually crazy because his other option was Virginia. So I definitely think he probably did choose the right school because Tony Bennett would have left. Right. So technically he did choose the right school. So I'm gonna ease up off him. But again, if you're Mick Cronin, again, don't take any information from me or any advice from me. But I'm just saying you got a diamond in the rough right there on your bench that can give you buckets on a team that struggles to get buckets from their backcourt. But my other two that I'll finish out with, I'll give a quick shout out to Derek Queen. He wasn't part of the two, but Derek Queen, I mean, he's been dominant, bro. Like Derek Queen should probably go top 5, bro. I think from what I've seen, from what my eyes tell me, Derek Queen could be the next great American big man, and I have no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Like some of the things that he's doing, it was a play. I'm going to continue to say, I said this a few times, but I'm going to continue to say this. It was a play where he was demanding for the ball. He was posting up his man, but demanding for the ball on the left wing, if I'm not mistaken. He gets it, but his man tried to steal it. And so he grabs it and he puts his man on his hip like he's a guard, and he gets all the way to the rim and just makes a play. And I'm like, you do not see bigs do things like that. That's a guard move that somebody that's 6'10" is making, right?
Yeah.
So some of the things that
he don't move like a regular big.
He does not move. Like he's dropping dimes. He's doing everything. He's shooting threes. He's shooting one leg.
He's going to be the most intriguing prospect because the numbers are he's gonna be someone who's gonna be battling for Big Ten Player of the Year.
Yep.
An All-American.
Mm-hmm.
And people are gonna be like, well, he doesn't have the size. He's gonna get picked apart so much. And then he's gonna be someone you just gotta be like, I don't know. Maybe the measurables are, but I don't know. He's a good player. He's just a hooper.
Exactly.
And he's going to get picked up. I already see it with him. I already see people picking him apart and be like, oh, well, he's not going to. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I watch him play and I'm like, I don't know. He's just one of those undersized dudes. I saw someone compare him to like Jared Sullinger, like that type. Not but like a player who's a lot better than like their measurables, and Jared Sullinger was a monster in college. Like he was a beast at Ohio State, but I saw that and I was like, that's, and I think that's what scares people with him is like, oh, because Jared Sullinger didn't last long in the league. He's hooping in overseas.
Yeah.
But that type of comp, like but he's been hooping, man. He's been better than advertised for sure.
Exactly. And then my last two names. Two guys that have been doing great things for their respectable programs. One is Thomas Sorber at Georgetown because that kid right there, dude, he is a menace. Again, he's a 6'9" forward/center. And I think for Ed Cooley's perspective, even though you're probably going to only get him for one season, him just being a draft eligible player and getting drafted from Georgetown, let me drop this on you. The last time someone got picked in the first round from Georgetown was Otto Porter in 2013. Think about that. So Thomas Sorber is going to end up being more than likely Georgetown's first NBA first-round draft pick since Otto Porter Jr., ladies and gentlemen. Right? Think about that. And so for Ed Cooley's perspective, you need to have guys like that. Maybe not a whole bunch of one-and-dones per se, but I think just having that and just instilling that faith in fans and young players in the DMV that, hey, Georgetown does put out products and can put guys to the NBA, that's major for Ed Cooley. And so I want to give a shout out to the Hoyas because Thomas Sorber has been amazing. And remember, he was playing on Team Final a year ago that had Jalil Bethea, Rob Wright, and Ahmad Noel. And Thomas Sorber has been doing great things for this Georgetown program. They played Creighton last week, and he was going right at Ryan Kalkbrenner. Like he was nothing. Like he was going right at him. Like first few plays of the game, he didn't even care. Posting him up, getting touches low down under the rim, just making things happen. And then my last one.
He's a Jersey kid, right?
He's from Philly.
Philly? No.
Yeah, he's from Philly.
Oh, Philly's right there too. Yeah, Philly's right.
Same thing, damn near. With all due respect, I know some people don't like that, but they're the same. They're tri-state, right? Technically.
Nasty.
Yeah, and then my last one. As great as Austin Noel is playing, Austin Noel has been amazing too, by the way. But his teammate, Samto Cyril, is a man-child. I'm saying he is a force down low. He is a grown-ass man playing in overtime elite last season.
That's what I'm saying. He was the elite kid that went
Yep.
there, right?
He was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
committed to Coach Cal at Kentucky, but obviously when Coach Cal made the move from Kentucky to Arkansas, he decommitted, ends up going to Georgia and Athens, playing for Mike White. He just has it all. And honestly, I kind of question his touch around the rim, but he's slowly but surely figuring it out. He rebounds everything. If you come into the paint, he's going to send your shot to the fifth row every single time. He's a man-child, and he's just stronger than the average freshman. He walked in just a grown-ass man. So I definitely want to give him a shout-out because he's been a revelation for them.
There's some intriguing potential. Like I remember when I first this year's like first dive into the draft and like saying, okay, I was like, man, is there any bigs? Like it doesn't feel like there's bigs. And then like as the season went on, I'm like, okay, there's actually some intriguing bigs. And just a couple of names you just rattle off are some names, and I'm like, okay, like these could be some guys that like rise up like Ease Missy did last year at Baylor.
Yep.
Like there's some guys that could potentially be some maybe lottery picks or late mid first round type of picks because they're intriguing with their size, athleticism, rim protection. So I first I'm like, man, I don't know if there's any bigs. And now I'm like, okay, there might be some intriguing bigs in this freshman class alone.
Yeah. I mean, and look, we need them, right? I mean, bigs are still valuable.
American bigs. Bigs. We need
bigs
more
are still
bigs.
valuable, and it's a lot of them out there. And Asa Noel is another one, bro. Like Asa Noel is skilled, like just supremely skilled lefty. Can put him in pick and pop situations. Can pick and roll. He's a lob threat. He blocks shots. He knows how to hold his ground. He can guard guards and wings, not just bigs. He's super solid and very reliable for that Bulldogs program. And Mike White got to enjoy him because he's not going to be around for that long. I promise you. And honestly,
he's one and done.
Yeah, honestly, let's just say it. And I mean, people have been saying it, but I mean, that Montverde team last year is probably the greatest high school team of all time, honestly. Because you look at what these guys are just doing in the college game alone. That's without even seeing what they're going to ultimately eventually end up doing in the NBA. We haven't even touched on Liam McNeely, right, who's probably UConn's best player. So, I mean, I just think, you look at that team and you look at what they're doing now individually, it speaks a lot to the talent that Kevin Boyle was bringing down there, to Montverde. And then a couple more disappointing ones, I'll be honest with you. Larry Johnson was actually at Creighton and barely played, and you would have thought he would have slotted a little bit more minutes just because the injury to Pop Isaacs, who's out for the season, but he's actually in the transfer portal right now. And that's kind of crazy to think that you're in the portal in the middle of the season, but that's where he's at right now. So that's unfortunate. David Castillo, another one. I was very high on this dude. He was a top shooting guard in the country. He played with Trey Johnson for Team Griffin on the EYBL, and he just he's been okay. He hasn't been bad, but the Kansas State team as a whole this year has just not been good. And so you would have thought that he would have maybe cracked the rotation.
Expensive ass team too.
Expensive team, and they've been struggling, right? They lost to Drake on a game winner, and they just had some bad losses. And so I really would have liked to see him, make some noise, but he just hasn't so far. And then the last one, this one is kind of tough this one's kind of tough. I feel like he was unfairly ranked very, very high as a kid, at 14 years old. But Nas Cunningham at Alabama, I mean, he is good. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say he's either from New York or Jersey, one or the other. But he was highly, highly recruited. At one point, he was the number 1 ranked kid in his class when they were like sophomores, freshmen. He had all the hype in the world kind of favoriting him. And he got hurt. So, I mean, I definitely think that's a part of it. And he's at Bama, where Bama has an abundance of guards on that roster. So it is tough, even though they lost the Trail Rice up for the season. But outside of that, I mean, I would have liked to see him maybe go somewhere else, because, I mean, again, you look at Mark Sears, you look at LeBaron, you look at all these guys on that team, it's just tough. Aiden Holloway, right? So you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, Kev, there's so many college basketball teams. There's no need for a bunch of kids to go to all the same school. There's just no need. Like we mentioned before, there's obviously, I know there's kids' dreams to play at certain schools or they want to go to a school because that's the pipeline to get to the league. But goddamn, how many college basketball teams are there? 400, something, like 350
like
plus, right?
330, something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Man, there's no need for 4, 5, 6 kids, freshmen, to be going to the same school. There's no need. There's so many schools. Like I don't like. You see a Bam and you're like, oh, they got 5 kids. You know, same thing with Duke. Duke does this. They get 5 kids, and you're like, well, we just mentioned before. Really, 2 of them are like the cream of the crop, right? You're usually gonna get the one or the second, or the first or the second best player, right? And then they're gonna get that lower end 5-star. Then they're gonna get the 2 4-stars. If you're the 2 4-stars, what the hell are you doing? I know it's Duke. But like, and you see, I'm like, sometimes I don't get it. Like, if you're these kids, I'm like, why are you going to like Isaiah Evans? Like, I'm like, listen, he's been playing more, but if I was him, he's like, there's other options. I know it's Duke, but I just feel like sometimes these kids are getting, and this is why we got a bunch of kids in the transfer portal, because they're like, oh crap, I made a mistake. Well, man, whose advice are you taking?
Exactly.
I would tell you straight up, hey man, I know this is such and such school, but you got to be real. They just got and we mentioned this before on the show, like they just got the number 1 player in the country. Then they got the 10th best player in the country. And you're like the 30th. Now you good, but guess what? You got to fight. And the next year they're going to recruit the number 1 player again. And then he's going to play the same position. And what happens next year? You're going to be on the bench again? That's why it's important to, not everyone needs to go. Now, you don't need 5, 6. You don't need to be going to the same school as 4 other kids. Like there's 300. I need to look exactly how many college basketball teams. Because it's like there's 300. Let's see. Let me see exactly how many. They are over 364 college basketball teams. The Division I teams. Now it may not be a sexy school. It may not be the school that's on your top priority, but there's no need, because you're just going to get stuck. Do you want to be stuck for 2 years, or you want to play? And you're in the transfer portal, and then what if that don't work out? I mean, sometimes I'm like, I just don't get it. Where these kids are getting this advice from, it's, but yeah. Some kids, the Bama's kids and the Duke kids, we're gonna see all of them in transport. How many? We're gonna see transport is gonna be littered with a bunch of these dudes. But but how would you rate so far the freshmen? Just give them a grade.
If I'm doing 1 out of 10, I'm probably going 9, bro. I mean, it's not too much. It's not too much better than they can be doing. You got to think this is probably the most impactful / best freshman class in a while. I've been trying to think about like the last like elite freshman group. It's been a minute, and especially again when you look at all around the country, right? Like you're seeing dudes everywhere making positive impact for their team. We've talked about a lot of guys, but it's a few guys we didn't even touch on like that, right? Like we could, if we wanted to, we can go for another 30 minutes.
You're a couple of your guys. You're a guy.
I mean, come on now,
Jace.
I ain't even got to speak on Jace. I mean, I think you see it every time he plays, right? He doesn't have this crazy build. He doesn't have crazy athleticism like his pops does, but I mean, he just gets the job done. He knows how to score. He knows how to play off his teammates. Very good passer, very unselfish, knows, pace and tempo of the game, plays defense, right? A lot of our fan base is clamoring for him to play more. I mean, I think rightfully so. I think a lot of it's kind of skewed because we've blown out some teams recently. So it's like, he's hitting the bench early, but I mean, it's a lot of guys, bro. It's a lot. I mean, you look at, we're going to play Ohio State on Friday. Junie Mobley has been a revelation for the Buckeyes. He was highly heralded, right? Coming out of Vegas. He's
and
really
the foreigners, Kasparis and Igor.
Yep. Yegor Demon, Kasparis, Yakashunas, like those guys are stars at their individual schools at BYU and Illinois, right? They're primetime players. And again, even you talk about Ivisic, like Ivisic on the Illinois team doing great things too, right? I ain't got nothing against his brother at Arkansas, but he's been very, very good, right? Like he's been amazing. When they played against each other on Thanksgiving Day, he dominated his brother, right? He's a lefty, super skilled, understands how to get into that short roll and make plays and break down defenses, whether it's scoring or whether it's making that extra pass. It's just a lot of things that these freshmen bring to the table that I won't say it's unheard of, but it's been a while, man. Again, we always talk about every year, experience matters. But these guys are impacting winning more than anything while boosting their draft stock for the most part. So, I got to give him a 9 out of 10, man. And the only reason I won't give him a 10 is because I want to see how the rest of the season plays out, especially in conference play where things get a little bit more tougher. But so far, we haven't really seen anything that would show us otherwise. So definitely a major salute to all these young guys out there doing their thing.
For sure. Yeah, these freshmen have been really impressive. We're getting into conference play. And before we sign off, what are some matchups for this? Before we do that, 2025 is coming up. Give me some. I just thought about this on top of that. Give me some bold predictions for 2025. We only got one more day left in 2024. Let's start off with a little bang. What's some of your? Give me some bold predictions before we sign off, and then we talk about some of the intriguing matchups for the rest of the week.
So I'm gonna start off with this one, and it's kind of out the box, not too crazy, but so it's been a stat going around in the college basketball community where, if I'm not mistaken, it's every year since some year. It's been a while. I think it's at least 20 years since week 6 of the college basketball season. If a team is ranked in the top 12, they win a national championship. And I can't remember the exact teams that were ranked in the top 12 during week 6, but I'm gonna say a team outside of that list wins a national championship this year. And again,
so a team outside of the top 12 right now wins the natty.
Yeah, and at the time, I remember I believe it was like Oregon, Iowa State, Auburn, all the known suspects, Tennessee, a few different teams. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be a team that is outside of that goes on a run and wins it all. Then I'll say this is going to be the first time that Penny Hardaway gets out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament and actually goes on a deep run too. I'll go further. I'll say Penny makes it to the Final Four this year. Shout out to my guy Francis, our guy Francis out there, and everybody out there in the 901. I'm gonna say the Tigers get to the Final Four with Kobe Rogers, Tyrese.
That's a good one.
Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty. I'm gonna say the Tigers going a long dance this year for the first time since Derrick Rose. So I definitely
it's been that long. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that one. And then
that's a good one. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah,
we gotta write that one down.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
keep. They've been good. They beat Ole Miss, undefeated Ole Miss.
Yep, they beat us. They beat a few good teams.
They beat you guys. Yep.
They and even their losses aren't that bad. Like, people were trying to knock over the Arkansas State loss. I promise you, Arkansas State's a good team. I watched them take Alabama down to the wire too down there in Tuscaloosa. Coach Hodgson's done a great job with that program. He's going to only continue to win. And historically, they've been one of the best mid-majors in the country. That's the same mid-major that North Chatham was at before he went to Miami, right? So, Arkansas State's very good. They went to Clemson and beat Clemson, right? Like, Memphis is very good, folks. So we'll talk about them as the season goes on. We're not going to talk about them too much in between the next few months just because the AAC is terrible. But as long as they handle business, they'll be a top 3-4 seed in the NCAA tournament come Selection Sunday. And after that, that one's tough. Let me see. I'm going to say, no, that's a little bit too far. I'm going to say that I don't even want to say this. No, that's not too crazy. I was gonna say UCLA wins the Big Ten. That's not crazy though.
UCLA wins the Big Ten
because they're already in the mix. A lot of people think they are. I personally don't even think they are. I just think they're in the mix. I'll say this. I'll say Maryland wins the Big Ten. Why not? I'll say Maryland ends up winning the Big Ten. I think Kevin Willard has his most complete team out there in College Park. You look at Jacoby Gillespie, who came over from Belmont. He's been a stud for them. Rodney Rice is originally from the DMV. He was at Virginia Tech last year. He transferred over. Selton Miguel was at USF last year. He came over down there, to College Park. And then obviously you got Derek Queen, you got Julian Reese, you got Deshaun Harris-Smith. So I'm going to say the Terps won the Big Ten this year. And then my last one, this one's going to sound like I'm hating. Purdue gets knocked out of the NCAA tournament round one. And honestly, that's not even too crazy because you look at Matt Painter's tournament history. They've had a lot of early exits, but
he's used to that.
Yeah, I think that trend continues this year. And I'm trying to think of one more. I'm gonna still say Iowa State wins it all. I'm sticking with the Cyclones to win it all. I firmly believe that they will. They're currently playing Colorado right now in Boulder to kick off Big 12 play, but I still believe in the Cyclone. I feel like everybody's talking about Auburn, rightfully so. People are talking about Tennessee, but don't forget, like Iowa State played against Auburn in the Maui Invitational, the first round, and they were up 18 points before Auburn stormed back in that game and won by Janiyah Broome tipping. If Iowa State wins that game, how are we looking at them right now? Completely differently, So I think Iowa State is still kind of floating under the radar, and I've been one of the biggest proponents of them. And so I'm gonna say that the Cyclones, win a national championship this year. I firmly believe that they got everything to do so with, adding Josh Jefferson from St. Mary's, getting Deshaun, they got a lot of dudes down there. But I'm gonna say the Cyclones win it all, man.
Cyclones win it all. All right. St. John's only loses 2 games in the Big East, and they win the Big East.
I like that one.
I think Pitino got them rolling. I think they're gonna obviously down Big East, but I think Mr. Pitino, they only lose 2 games, win the Big East, and win the Big East tournament. I think they all this is the year. I think they go all in this year. Because I don't know if he has many more years left. So I'm gonna go with that. Mark Few retires.
Ooh, okay.
Mark Few retires. I think he's the next one. I think, especially if they lose early, because I don't know, this Gonzaga team, we don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's games where they look like, okay, all right, is this it? Is this the year they do it? And then there's games it's like, all right, they're disappointing. They had a lot of close losses, but still, I could see just getting deemed too much, and then it would be a shame because he's the one. I think he probably has the most wins without a national championship, right? Or definitely up there. And it would be a shame for him to never have won a national championship. But I think he retires. He's the next big coach to retire. He flirted with it, right? He's flirted with it. I think it happens this year. I know we've been down on this guy, but I think Rick Barnes gets to the Final Four.
He breaks the curse.
I think he breaks the curse. I think I don't know. I think he does it this year. I think Chaz helps them get there. Chaz has been a baller this year.
Yep.
And I think he gets it done. I think he gets to the Final Four. That's going to be so. Those are my 3. I can't think of anything else, anything too crazy, but those are I think St. John's wins the Big East, only 2 losses, wins the Big East championship. Mark Few retires. Tennessee goes to the Final Four. Those are my bold predictions for 2025. It's around the block. All right. Any games you're looking forward to this year? For this week?
For this week,
I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was Friday today, and it is Monday.
No, yes, it definitely is Monday. I know Christmas kind of got us.
Yeah,
all.
these and then off. I've been off working the 2 eves, back-to-back eves, so it's got me all messed up. But yeah, it is only Monday. But yeah,
tomorrow we got a great slate of games to kind of end off the year. You got West Virginia going into Fog Allen Fieldhouse, to play Kansas. Tucker DeVries is hurt right now, so that's kind of a big loss for a West Virginia team that needed all the offense they can get. But if you watched Javon Small so far this season, I'm not counting out West Virginia at all in that game. Of course, Kansas still got to improve upon some things. Definitely Arizona State. Look, Arizona State, we didn't even touch on their freshmen, right? Between Josan Sannon and Jaden Quaintance. They're going to go to BYU to take on Yegor Demin and Cannon Catchings and the BYU Cougars out there in Provo, Utah. So
all that money, them boys.
So I think that should be a good one. Then your boys out there in Jamaica Queens, St. John's is at Creighton tomorrow. And again, Creighton is not as good as we probably thought they were. And obviously losing Pop Isaacs was tough. But when Creighton is at home, that's still one of the toughest environments in the country. It's a reason that they beat Kansas. Again, Pop was in that game. He had a major game, but it's still tough to go down to Omaha and beat them. That's going to be a great early road test for Rick Pitino's Fighting Johnnies out there in Jamaica Queens. And then the last one I'll probably say is Marquette at Providence. And look, Providence has not been a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. Kim English is still trying to lay his foundation out there in Rhode Island, but another tough environment. St. John's barely won out there, right? St. John's squeaked out of one. I think St. John's won on a game winner by Zuby Ejiofor, right? Like barely.
Yeah.
Again, that's my thing is like conference play, no matter how good or bad a team is, winning
It's
on the
tough.
road is not easy, ladies and gentlemen. Winning on the road is hard as hell. We even just seen tonight as we're speaking, Kansas State beat Cincinnati at Kansas State, right? Like Cincy was top 15, I think, or top 20 at least, right? They won,
Top
against
15.
Xavier. Yeah, and Kansas State's been struggling this year. Kansas State knocked off Cincy, so it's not easy to go on the road and pick up dubs. So every game, especially in conference play, matters. And on the road, it's just a tougher test because you don't got the fans, supporting you like they would if you were at home. So
Especially in college, man. College, getting those road wins in college is tough, man. Some of those environments are wild.
Yep. And then the last one I'll say, in the Big 12, I know Utah isn't really a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. They're getting adjusted to the Big 12 going from the Pac-12, but Utah's going to be playing down in Waco early in the morning tomorrow against the Baylor Bears. And so I want to see how Baylor starts off Big 12 play because, again, they haven't been as good as we probably thought they would be going into the season. So let's see how Baylor starts off Big 12 play and kind of gets this thing going.
Here we go. Some intriguing matchups for this week. The new year is right around the block. 2025. Can't wait for this to the start of the new year. Conference play is going to be fun. I think we're going to start to see some we'll see which teams are for real because we know how it is for conference play starts. A lot of these records are kind of inflated because you're playing a lot of weaker teams. So we'll see who's real, who's fake. But Kev, another great episode to Get a Bug podcast, brother.
Yes, sir, man. You already know. We appreciate y'all. 2025 going to be even better. We're going to have a lot of games in between January and March. I cannot wait. March is already around the corner, which is crazy to say, but January's here. We're going to slowly but surely get into the thick of things in conference play. Y'all be good, man. Y'all have a happy new year. Fulfill all your resolutions. Write them down. Say them to yourself. Whatever you got to do, it's going to all be fine, man. But again, we appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this thing rolling, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review, and all that good. Make sure to follow. Make sure to sub on the YouTube account, Off the Ball Network. Check out the visual of the podcast. Appreciate everyone that supported. Except we're gonna have more. Get everyone ready for the new year. But on that note, have a happy new year. Take care. Be well. Be safe. Take care. Peace out, guys.